Hey everybody, welcome back to the Laugh Cry Club. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca, and we're so happy you're here.
We're so happy you're here. Hello.
Yes.
I am just so glad that we are here for another week, hanging out with our besties out there in the Laugh Cry Club. I mean,
we all need each other, don't we?
This
absolutely
world is
need
so
each
hard.
other.
It's something I say all the time. It's just bananas. That's my favorite thing to say about
It's bananas.
craziness.
I love it.
I try not to use, I think as a mental health professional, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I try very hard and I don't want to overthink it. But sometimes I don't want to use the word crazy because people are like, don't say that.
I am totally there with you.
Are you?
It's
So
like I always
just say
hate
bananas.
it. Anytime I do say it, not in relation to people per se, or not clients
I'll say,
anyway.
Like, that's crazy.
That's
or,
crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Or
but
that's
if I
the
say
craziest
the world
thing.
is crazy. Right. But I try to be very mindful of the language around the word crazy, which is interesting.
It makes me feel weird inside when I say it. And I'm like,
yes.
Like it feels like almost like if somebody were going to say something like racist, homophobic, misogynist. I know, it's just one of those things that you're like, oh, like there's a lot of connotations that go along with certain words. That's a perfectly ties into what we want to talk about today, which is what happens when mental health therapist professionals are online. And I think this even includes mental health coaches. What happens when we all are online and we go viral or we don't go viral, but sometimes we get attention for the wrong reasons.
The reason this really was brought up is in the past week, there's a lot of prominent mental health therapist influencers. One of them is Therapy Jeff. I'm sure if people are online or if you follow therapists, he is one of the largest. I think his following on Instagram is around 1 million. TikTok is around 3 million. That's very significant for a mental health professional. So the online presence has been very profound. I don't know how long he's been online, but has a podcast, has been a practicing therapist since 2008, focused on family therapy. And then, I think 2008 was when social media and Instagram kind of took off. So I'm sure that was probably where he took the opportunity to really build a brand, which is great. Every video is very informative with a pretty opinionated take. I mean, look, controversy and very strong opinions create a lot of conflict and I don't want to say backlash, but you're going to get a lot of attention if you have strong opinions. People who have stronger opinions are going to drive engagement. That's just a social media strategy. So he's done that very well. In the past week, and really the focus of this episode is more about the presence of therapists on social media. But this prompted the discussion because Therapy Jeff had an inappropriate comment exchange. There were a couple things. There was one post that people were really upset about where he was talking about resources for men who are experiencing an urge or worried fantasies are turning into plans, like who would they call, or is there no dedicated helpline for men who are scared that they might sexually assault their partner? Like people had a really strong reaction to that. I'm not here to weigh in on, what we think in terms of taking a side here, but that was something that, because I also feel like when we have very limited information, I just think social media breeds this ground of judgment that we're like, we don't have the full story here. Yes, you said something that was like objectively questionable as a therapist, let alone a human, but that was something that set off a lot of people because, of course, it was right around the time too that I think there was something in the media that was around, it was a CNN investigation about a network of men who drugged and rape their partners. And so it was like around that same time. And it was like, hey, what are you doing? So the behavior was not looking great. And then there was a thread between, and you guys, if you're listening and you're not familiar, I'm not going to go through the exact thread. It's pretty disturbing to like read. So if you don't want to know, I'm not going to
You can Google it if you really want to
know. Yeah.
It's out there.
Yes. So there's a thread where someone had posted a question about how they like a certain sexual act, and he responded with very graphic detail from his professional account.
Very graphic detail.
Very graphic detail. I mean, this is my Catholic spidey senses were like, oh my gosh, it's like very,
Yes.
I get embarrassed if someone says, something very mild. And this was like cheeks flushed. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is on Threads. But just in my professional hat, let alone my little Catholic hat. But like my professional hat is going, what in the actual blankety blank is happening here, because I am not here to judge what anyone wants to do on their free time sexually, as long or not free time. But like whatever you want to do sexually.
Just don't harm other people or animals.
And have consent.
Yes.
Practice respect. All of the things that we know, right? As I'm sure our listener and audience know this. But when you are a mental health professional, we have ethics and boundaries that we have to abide by. But then this brought up the question, and I was talking to Rebecca about it, where I was like, okay, so then how are we supposed to handle this as a mental health professional with our online presence? Specifically, what rule was broken if we're talking about ethics here? And so, all these things are coming up where I'm like, if I'm a client and I'm seeing that, what is going on? And he got a lot of backlash for that too. People were like, what? And so then everyone's coming out of the woodwork. And so there's a lot of other angles I'd like to get into. We'll start here, but I want to also get into the angle of then everyone's dogpiling and posting their responses.
They do.
And in my mind, I'm like, and we could probably be accused of the same thing here, but I'm not here to be judge and jury of Jeff. I'm here to talk about my reaction as just a therapist in your online presence. So I also want to discuss the piece around people reacting, therapists reacting, not just people, therapists reacting, dogpiling on him, and then this like kind of cancel culture that happens. And I'm like, everyone's going off the rails here.
Right.
What say you?
I agree with all of that. I think our take is this is just a bigger conversation about therapists in the world we live in. We live in a social media, digital age, right? People are trying to give their hot takes all the time. So we're on the TikToks, the Gram, Meta, all this stuff. But even prior to that explosion, we saw the explosion in telehealth. And I feel like that really what started us all. Because back in the day, not too long ago, if you wanted to come to therapy, you actually had to make an appointment and come into my office. I actually had to get up and go to my office. I had to dress professionally to be there, set a nice warm environment, inviting you in, creating a safe space. Like it was very much you picked what was on your walls because it was not necessarily for you, but also for your client. We went through from that really intimate connection with our clients and the therapist, that relationship, to being online. I love doing therapy online. I am a proponent. I don't want to go back into the office, honestly. Now, that's a controversial comment or take as well, but I think that's where it all started, that we got online. And I've been in so many different trainings about how therapists present online in teletherapy, because you're in your house most of the time, right? So one, you can be easily distracted by whatever's going on in your house. There's a whole thing as being, Zoom fatigue, being fatigued by being on a computer all day long and the blue lights. We all know about that. Also, it's not really helping our skin, by the way. Just throwing that out. That's my hot take. It's aging me. We get really relaxed. It's become this really relaxed nature for therapists, which I am always, when I do therapy online, I am always thinking about, who am I in this? Am I, like, right now, I'm podcast co-hosting with Joy. That's my hat. If I'm doing therapy, I'm doing therapy with somebody. If I'm just having a game night with somebody online, that's what I'm doing. So it's like, I think you have to really be intentional about what you're doing as a therapist when you're online. I mean, the research is out there. Therapists have become more relaxed. Our ethics have become more relaxed because of the digital age, I feel like. And so then we moved from, say, telehealth into, hey, now we can reach people on TikTok. We can do things on the other social medias. But now it's like, here's one point I want to throw out too. Therapists are widely underpaid for what we do as a profession. That is a common thing we all talk about. Everybody's wanting to get paid. It's a hard job. It's hard to get paid because you're chasing down insurance companies all the time if you accept insurance. And so I think we found a way to monetize our skills and create a brand by going, say, on TikTok or social media sites, because you can't make a lot of money being a therapist. And some of us are just trying to make a living wage.
Right, make ends meet. Something my friends and I say all the time. If we see someone doing something on social media and they're doing like the influencer dance, we'll kind of joke to each other and be like, girls got to eat,
That's
like
true. I mean, no shame. It's like,
no
that's
shame.
why we're not saying anything about like what Therapy Jeff's doing. He's built a huge following, a great brand.
Following and a
very
great brand.
helpful to a lot of people.
That is the good point here. Look, I don't want people to come at me because I'm not taking a side. I'm not being judge and jury here, but I am saying there are so many situations in life in general where a public figure is very quick to be taken down, where you can all of a sudden just undo all of the good that they've done by one bad behavior. Or does that mean, this is again, like, we're taking all angles here, the veil slipped and he, like, that's who he really is. And then we saw like a peek under the curtain of like this person's character, and now we're not trusting. And I think that's another piece that comes into play, is like the second you see someone's true colors, whether it be a celebrity that has a bad behavior come out, or, oh, they got a DUI, because what we do in our mind is like this perfect person, the celebrity culture, the influencer culture, because they post all things that are helpful. And Therapy Jeff has posted a lot of really helpful content. It's helped a lot of people. Look, he's got millions of followers. I look at that and I'm like, there's been a lot of good here. When this behavior comes out, it feels like everyone acted like they were bamboozled. Like, all this time we trusted you. That's a very scary place to be as an influencer too, because you do uphold this brand. And then the second something comes out that makes people question that, you lose trust very quickly. You gain trust very quickly, but you lose trust even quicker in the social media space. Because if you think about it, Rebecca, you and I are in a field where we build trust with people. We build trust with clients coming into our office and trusting that we are going to uphold the ethical standards of our profession, that we are going to do no harm, that when they're in our office, or even on telehealth, that they feel like, I am comfortable with this person. It takes a lot of time to build up that trust. Or on social media, you're putting on this like post. It's a 2D situation. And if you're like, your human brain goes, I like that post. That post helped me. Like, follow. It doesn't take much.
Right. Oh, I think it's easier online that where people are building trust. And like you said, they put them on a pedestal then, and then it's, let's cancel them if they make a misstep. Or maybe the real them is coming out. I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. But we're all very quick to judge online because that's what being online has done to us, that we can hide. When we had to confront people face to face, we are less likely to do it unless we are for certain that what we're confronting them about is real and that we have the information to back it up. Because we don't want to be standing face to face with someone and then feel like an idiot because I came and said, well, you did this thing. And then you're like, well, actually, here, let me show you. And but we will do it when we have a keyboard because it's so easy.
Yeah. And in this example that we're talking about with Therapy Jeff, it also feels very much like people were very quick to go, see, I knew it. I knew there was something wrong with this person. I knew, we want to, it's like we're waiting. And I've seen this happen with so many celebrities where the second there's a crack in the veneer, people are very quick to just take it down. And I find that behavior, just as a psychologist, I find it very interesting of what that's about, why we're very quick to be like, and it would not be this way in a 3D relationship, in an actual relationship, but it's like unfollow, follow. I like you or I don't like you. Very black and white thinking. It's, to me, I just feel like that's an interesting thing as humans that we do on social media. And what is that doing to us psychologically too?
Do you think
we're kind of losing nuance in relationship? If that's like all we're kind of basing it on, these very surfacey judgments.
Do you like and unlike? Is that also happening in, say, our 3D relationships? Like, has the way of behaving online, is that spilling into how we behave in our offline life? Like,
man, that's a good question.
Are people canceling each other quicker? I don't know.
We're judging. Well, I'm going to speak for myself because I just popped in my head about how if I see someone that maybe it's an acquaintance I know, what they're posting online, I'll be like, why are they posting that? And I would never have that thought about. It's an interesting online life and what people choose to post. We have a new lane to judge people, where if we are, I'm going to take my Peru trip as an example. If I'm living off the grid, truly, I took a week of no social media. I mean, I barely looked at it, glanced at it, maybe once a day, but really steeped in 3D relationships, you don't consider all of that other judgment. And I do wonder if that kind of hangs over as a cloud with some of our actual relationships when we see them, what they're posting online and choosing to post online, and having that create a distance of sorts. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about before social media, I look at social media as your internal thoughts.
Yeah,
People are posting
yeah.
their internal thoughts all the time.
Yeah,
when
it's
you were
true.
just doing your thing and social media didn't exist, you had no idea what somebody was thinking unless they
Right.
told you.
Right.
Right? Now I know all the time what they're thinking. If they're posting it.
Yeah. Or it's like we know what to expect now. So I'll have judgments about, maybe people I went to high school with where I'm like, oh, I never would have judged this because I never would have known that all you do is sell MLM stuff. Then I'm kind of like, ugh. But, I'm more talking about acquaintances. But I do wonder, to your point, around closer relationships that we have and how if that is affecting. I think it's a really good question. But I also want to circle back a little bit to the part about ethics and boundaries and just the behavior of therapists and professionals. I guess we can only speak to our profession, of course, but I'm sure this happens to many professions where you're online, you have a stance of, I want to post informative content and you build a really good following. A lot of doctors do this. I see this very heavily in the plastic surgery or facelifts or Botox world, where people are posting like before and afters, or even something that I really don't like is when they start to weigh in on what people have had done, when I'm like, that's not your patient.
Like they'll take a photo.
They'll take a photo of someone.
This is what they did.
This is what they've done. And it's like, that's not your patient. And why are you weighing in on something that is probably not true? So anyway, speaking for our profession, my initial reaction, I still haven't fully processed this, but when I saw the thing with Therapy Jeff and, unfortunately, maybe fortunately, who knows if these are the true colors of someone who really maybe isn't a great person at the end of the day. It's not my concern to figure that out. It's just more of like he is kind of the poster child right now of like how you show up on a platform, how you handle yourself on a platform where you have such a huge following because your role is a therapist and you have very specific ethics that you have to follow. This would totally be different if he was just a guy on Jackass doing crazy shit. That's
right.
We're not talking about that. Like it would be a non-issue, but because of the label and the title that he holds, this is where it gets really sticky. So my initial reaction when I saw that was like, ooh. And I will be totally honest, my first reaction was like, ooh, I always wondered. It's a mistrust of it's a mistrust of, I have this weird thing in my brain that's maybe not true, that if someone has millions of followers, the less I trust it. So
interesting.
I don't trust when I'll say it a million times. I don't trust Mel Robbins. I don't trust like some of the self-help gurus that are like
that's
way
a whole
up.
Nother thing,
Yeah, that's a
Mel
whole other
Robbins.
thing. But like, there's very few people out there that are quote unquote experts that I truly trust, because most of the people that I trust don't have this like huge following. Like I follow these guys who created this app called Healthy Minds, and they have this podcast called the Dharma Lab, and they're neuroscientists at Brown. I trust them, kind of have a trust in Brene Brown, but it's very rare for me to have like the millions of followers, people where we as consumers trust the brand. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, my spidey senses were correct. He is not what he appears to be. And then when I saw the sexually explicit response about the sexual act, I was like really disgusted as a professional.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's also taking his place of being, he's a licensed therapist, this somewhat of an authority figure. I know we're not the police or anything like that, but we all know in our relationships with our clients or the world, if we're saying we're a therapist, there's a certain power that we have. There's a power dynamic. And then for you to take your platform and that power and to then say something really, highly inappropriate, that just, it not only affected him and whoever has read it thus far, but the profession as a whole. It's like another, oh, look at you all. Like, it's not a great look for therapists. And, I agree with you. You're talking about like, you had your spidey sense, like something might be off, particularly with him. I'll say, I think as therapists too, we're trained to watch body language in people, not like we're analyzing everybody all the time. But when I watch certain therapists or influencers saying something and watching them, I just watch their mannerisms, what's going on. And I'm just like, wow, like sometime, I mean, I had my concerns as well. I think it was because the kind of the absolutes that are being said, or like these really firm stances. And I feel like in therapy that there may be a firm stance if you're using like a particular theory or a particular type of therapy. But I think when you start taking firm stances in therapy, it takes away from your client's ability to make their own judgments and thoughts and have their own opinions.
Then that also becomes the issue here that I see, that his online identity is very much different from, well, I would hope that that's not how he is in therapy. That
I would hope, yeah.
There's definitely an air, like we said earlier, of like Girls Gotta Eat, where he is building a brand. I see his online presence very much, and because we know so much about social media and posting and what drives engagement, that extreme views drive engagement. Consistency drives engagement. He has the same background. He's done his research on like what drives engagement. The thing that I don't love, but again, like it works, but the thing I don't love is that he's clearly reading from a teleprompter and he's clearly using AI to write his scripts. And it comes across like this is flying off the top of his head and making him look really smart. And I'm sure he is, like he wouldn't be having all the millions of followers that he does if he was a dumb person. But that to me feels manipulative, where I'm like, look, I understand putting out information to help people. The way that he's going about doing it doesn't feel authentic to me. And that's kind of where I'm like, ooh, that's the feeling I get of like the Spidey sense. So I don't know any other way though that you build a brand, because you kind of have to have that like business. You have to cross that line into business, is to be kind of a salesperson. It's this part salesperson, part therapy. And that's where I think it gets really tangly, that we as therapists, we don't have a training in how to build a brand in a business, because we are more focused on doing the therapy piece. So I think it's a hard Wild West, if you will, for therapists to have to figure out, especially with social media. But it's a nuanced topic, clearly. Maybe we can have a few more episodes about it. But the piece that was really interesting to me and also made me feel really icky was seeing then all the other therapists get on board to try to like ride on the coattails of engagement by posting response videos. And I'm like, look, again, if you post a response video to something that is driving a lot of traffic, you're also going to get a lot of traffic. So then it just all of it felt really incestuous and icky to me, of piling on to someone who clearly made a bad decision. And then I get educating people about why this is wrong from a therapy standpoint. But then it was just like, we're not having authentic, productive conversations. We're weighing in on something. We are just taking a piece out of this whole picture. I'm like, you're just causing more harm.
I would agree. Hence, that's why we didn't post on his post.
Right.
Everybody, pay attention to that.
Yeah, we didn't. I was like,
we didn't post anything about it, because that's not who we are.
It's not who we are. And I think we're still trying to figure out, and I think we do a really good job of just really posting anything related to our podcast. And our podcast is here to be helpful. We represent ourselves as mental health professionals. You know, we make jokes about our personal life here and there, but like with appropriate boundaries. And everything we post on social media has everything to do with the content that we're putting here on the podcast. So, and that feels right to us, because if you think about a professional versus a personal identity, there's this thing in therapy called a dual relationship dynamic, where I don't think this is very clearly stated in our, ethics code, but if you're online, maybe that could be crossing a line of having like a personal relationship dynamic versus a professional relationship dynamic. And I think what happened, what didn't feel great, was all of a sudden he crossed over into what felt like a very personal comment that did not fit in with the professional. And while he can be very spicy and like say very opinionated things, this just felt completely different, like off the rails different.
There are different types of therapists, therapy licenses, right, and degrees, but ultimately we all get grouped into the therapy umbrella. And we each have our own code of ethics. Joy and I are licensed differently, and I have my code of ethics, and you have your code of ethics. However, they all kind of talk about the same thing. And like the biggest thing, like I've heard you say today, is that it's about doing no harm. That's like number one thing for therapists. Do no harm, meaning, and which is part of that, is being mindful with your words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's in and out of session.
Because would you say, I don't think he said this, but maybe someone would argue, well, he can say whatever he wants. It's, it's online. But to me, I'm like, but you're representing yourself as a therapist. That is what your role online has been. You're underestimating your influence, and that is your job to maintain. I don't think he said this, but someone might argue like, well, that's if someone got offended, that's their problem. It's like, no, because his role is clearly defined as a therapist. It is his job to do no harm.
This leads me to a great question. Is this an ethics violation?
Is it that's exactly what I've been thinking about, because I also have seen a lot of therapists reporting him to his board.
Oh, they are?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Okay. That's a whole nother topic, right? Because we actually we have a duty to report.
To warn and report.
If another therapist is doing something really inappropriate, we are supposed to report them to their licensing board in their state. So,
right, which people have done. I've seen that happen. And I'm sure he has had a ton of reports to his licensing board, which could really take down his license. And then he could lose his license and his career then. That's why I think, that's the other part. I'm not weighing judgment whether he should have been reported or not, but I feel like sometimes we should think about what we're doing. I think if we just take a step back and be mindful before reacting, because yes, you very could report something to a board. Mm-hmm. Is it the right thing for you specifically to do? Mm-hmm. Or is the person that was harmed, especially on social media, I mean, it could just get really crazy and you could just take somebody's life over, let's say not even him, say somebody else made some comment online, somebody that could report you to the board, and then you've got the board sniffing around, like coming to you and being like, we need an explanation for what this was said. Like they do an investigation. That has been on my mind as a therapist, just the ethical violation question, because that's just what I've felt is this is not someone who had an anonymous account and was not representing themselves as a therapist. They were representing themselves as a therapist. The account was under Therapy Jeff, and people took screenshots because he, took it down after people started causing a stir. But the lines got really blurry. And I think that's where we lose sight of what is appropriate and not appropriate, what is edgy and not edgy. If you think about the 80s, early 90s of Loveline and Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla
I
loved that show too. And I think there's a little bit of like this desire to be the edgy therapist that's going to put it all out there and tell it like it is. But at the end of the day, that can get you in real trouble, because I don't know if those two paths can really cross. I've not seen someone do that successfully. And I don't even know what the word successfully means in that context, but I have not seen people do. I've seen, therapists have shows like Couples Therapy with Dr. Jen Berman, but she is clearly taking couples and doing therapy. Same with Dr. Orna on the Showtime series Couples Therapy. It's very clearly, this is a therapist acting as a therapist, having clinical supervision, all of these things that does not cross over into this, like, look how edgy I'm being. And I think, like, back to Loveline, Dr. Drew is a board certified doctor, not a therapist. So he was always weighing in. He was always weighing in, and Adam Carolla is not a therapist. Dr. Drew was weighing in from the medical side of these are the things that could be happening. And always the disclaimer, I am not your doctor. These are things that, I'm weighing in on as a professional with my experience, but it didn't ever feel like it was crossing a line. It's just bringing up a lot to think about. But I think at the end of the day, what I want people out there to hear, this is not okay behavior for therapists. And if I've heard a lot of opinions on the internet with this whole thing going on. And some people are like, I love that my therapist has an online presence because I want to know who they are representing themselves as. And I'm like, that's fine. But are they walking the walk of a professional that you would want to see and trust with your care? Because I don't feel like, I take a pretty strong stance that therapists should not be posting personal things on their account. Like anything
not on your professional page.
No.
Like have a separate page private, and have it locked down so nobody can find you. That's the whole thing, because people do try to find you. I want to go back to, how do we know about, like you mentioned, say with a Therapy Jeff, like you felt like he's reading from a script, it was probably AI created script. I'm just curious if we could talk a little bit about, how do people out there know, or how do they learn what's happening? And I'm not even phrasing this correctly, but essentially, like if I'm watching a therapist online, how do I know that that's actually their information? Is it generated? I just think that would be helpful for people to know. How do you know? How did you know?
I know because I know how AI writes, because I use AI all the time.
Okay.
And
not in therapy, but
no,
to help you with the
to help. Right.
She's actually using AI right now. This whole, yes, you can tell because it's very streamlined. This whole episode has been created by AI.
Every time that I have a thought and have to pause, but yeah, I can just tell how AI writes. It's a cadence. It uses certain words. I just know now. And so when he reads it, I'm like, this is completely AI. I just know. I know. But here's the thing. I have no doubt these are his opinions and thoughts. Like, I think he just uses AI to say, create a script using these ideas. These are my
in 1 minute time period.
Yeah, exactly. And
get these points across.
There's nothing wrong with that, because those are his ideas. I have no doubt that those are his original ideas, but he's using AI to script it, which I don't love because it sounds like AI to me. And he comes across, I don't love that, like, you're making it sound like you're so polished and you can just put these thoughts out so quickly, but you're reading from a teleprompter. I know you are.
Joy, I'm so glad you're saying this, because I haven't watched his videos that closely.
Oh, I do, because I'm like,
I know you do.
I am like scrutinizing, because I'm like, because when people follow so blindly, I'm like, they're being bamboozled. You know what I mean? Like,
you are like a sniffer dog.
I am a sniffer dog. I wanted to be in the police department when I was younger.
You want to be a canine
I was
police officer.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Rebecca. I'm rarely wrong when people come out as kind of, sorry for the term,
but you are really good at this.
I am so good at sniffing out when people are batshit crazy, and I'm sorry for using that term, but I can absolutely sniff it out. I called it on Rachel Hollis. I called it on Mel Robbins. I called it on this guy. I was like, in my brain, I don't say it publicly, but I should start saying it publicly, because I'm always
That's how
right.
you're going to go viral and get all kinds of followers. So really, it's just, you watch the videos intently. But see, I didn't realize, I just wanted to bring this up because I think maybe listeners might feel the same way. Like, I've watched some of his videos. I start feeling bad about myself because I'm like, wow, I suck.
Yes.
I don't sound that polished. And I'm a therapist. I don't know how long he's been doing therapy, but I've been doing this 20 plus years, and I don't sound polished at all. And it makes me feel less than and bad, and like, he's so bright and informative. And
I'm not doubting that he has elements of bright and informative, but I'm just saying he is not as polished as he
I know,
appears.
because he gets help.
He's using all the tools. He's using all the assistants. He's got the great lighting. He's got the mic on his lapel. He's got the teleprompter in front of him. Like, I just watch his eyes.
I need a teleprompter.
He's reading, and so... But here's the thing that I want people to understand, because you asked a really good question of like, how can people tell? Here's the thing. Be a smart consumer. Never make someone your guru. Just make that a rule for yourself. Anytime, and I've been around the block, I used to make people my guru, and it always shatters. Like, the glass shatters, the veneer shatters, everything shatters, where once you make someone your guru, you kind of hold it on this pedestal. The second it cracks, you're like, oh, you're so disappointed. And I'm not saying like you can't take people's information and content out there and let it help you, but don't make someone your guru to a point where you're like, I need to set this standard. And like you were saying, you feel bad about yourself as a content creator because they're so polished. It's like, don't make someone your guru, because it is never what it seems. Never what it seems. Let me say that again. Things are never what they seem on social media. So if someone is like super polished, has their shit together, eating green juice, has a 6-pack, it's never what it seems. It is just never, ever, ever, ever what it seems. So that is something that I want consumers and people, especially if you're following therapists out there, is to, if it starts to make you feel bad, I want you to unfollow them immediately. If it starts to make you doubt yourself, unfollow immediately. I only want you to follow content that makes you go, oh, this person seems very authentic. I'm going to take this piece of content, like same with our podcast or anything that we post. Take what helps and leave the rest.
Yeah, you take the nuggets that work for you and leave the rest. Because I think too, like for us, we are not coming on here saying we're an expert in everything. I think sometimes these therapists come on and they're like, yeah, like, I don't know, like for instance, he sounds like he's a super expert in everything he's talking about. I probably could too if I was using AI and a teleprompter, I guess. But I love that you're like, take it for what it is. Recognize that online things are not what they seem because they're heavily edited, they're scripted. especially when it comes to therapy. If you are like looking for therapeutic advice, the best place to get it is to get your own therapist. And even your own therapist isn't supposed to give you advice, but to lead you into forming your own opinions. But don't do therapy through an influencer.
Yeah, please don't.
It will be damage. It's very damaging.
Yeah, it only scratches the surface. And most of the time, kind of what I see is more of a toxic positivity approach. And I get it because that really helps. People like to grab onto those like short hits of like, ooh, that felt good. But we're looking for real here. I think there is an element, like if I'm just really trying to think, someone prove me wrong, but I'm thinking about Hollywood and shiny things, and social media kind of mirrors that because we're trying to present this shiny thing to sell. And I don't think you can get a real benefit as a mental health therapist or from a mental health therapist by just doing this online. I think there's very few people but mostly because they've written books and they're like promoting their book. Like that's totally different. I'm going to stand by that stance. Like, I don't think you can do it as a therapist to like really have this real authentic presence online. I just don't think it's possible.
And what you're saying, and also have like 1 million followers. Is that what you're saying? Or
yeah.
Or to have like a brand where
a recognizable brand. I don't think you can do both. I don't think you can build this recognizable brand, successful, meaning like maybe you're generating a lot of money that you could live off of. I don't think you can do that and be like super authentic and ethical. That's a good question. I just have not seen it done. It just feels this is going to make me sound so silly. But right now there's a housewife on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And she is a positive, like a life coach, one of those self-help gurus. There we go. And she has made gobs of money writing books that in my mind are complete bullshit. They're selling you a fantasy. They're selling that whole manifestation bullshit.
Yep.
She makes bank. She makes so much money off of these courses. I went online, I looked at these courses. They're absolute bullshit. They're all fluff. It's basically word vomit to like get people to think that she's so smart by writing pages and pages of content on her website. At like page 2, I was like, what the fuck are you selling? So she's not a therapist, of course, but I just feel like that's where you get into territory where I'm like, you're saying you're a self-help guru, but you're not doing it. Like you're doing it because you're doing it for money.
They probably sit in their houses thinking, look at all the people I bamboozled and, or, have afforded me this jet or this fancy trip.
But I think they really believe it. That's the thing. I think they really believe what they're doing is helpful, and maybe it is, but what they're doing and what I've seen self-help gurus go wrong is they're quote unquote helping very vulnerable people, when in actuality these vulnerable people should be going to therapy because they don't need to look, guys, you don't need to be paying anybody for a self-help course that's like, I looked at the pricing, it was like $3,000 for a course. Yeah.
Wow.
You can get way more out of therapy.
I'm doing the wrong thing. I need to write a self-help course.
You're doing the right thing because I think that's absolutely bananas crazy.
I mean, yeah. I think that just shows another point of like you're talking about vulnerable people, but people want a quick fix. Let's like if we talk about our last episode, like we want quick fixes. Like to do the work, it's hard, and so it's like a quick fix is a soundbite, and that's not going to help you because it's not the therapist or whoever the person is doesn't know about your life.
Well, and this housewife came from a cult. Like she grew up in a cult.
Oh, okay. I think I know who this is. Yeah.
All I see in my brain is you just formed another cult. And
I'm telling you, cult, we should do an episode on that. It's so interesting.
I know. I get it because people look at that and they see her success. People will do that story of like, I was in a cult and I had to leave and I had nothing. And look what I built. I built millions of dollars. And people are like, oh, if she can do it, I can. And I am just like, if you've got millions of followers and you claim to make a lot of money off of these millions of followers and that you could just go ahead and you can do the same thing, just do what I do.
Well, they're not. They're probably not well balanced. All right, they're not balanced. Kind of
Don't make anyone your guru.
Don't make anyone your guru, as Joy says here. But I say, just watch what people are doing, be educated. And I want to say if it says doctor next to their name, do a little bit of research. They may not actually be a medical doctor and they may actually not be a psychiatrist. Fun fact, I used to live in a community where it was like a pharmacy. I don't know. It's like a naturopathic pharmacy, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy always referred to himself as Dr. So-and-so. And people would refer to him as a doctor in the community. And he had like this pharmacy in the community. He actually was not a medical doctor. I think it was like a doctor of education.
Yeah.
That stuff is so dangerous.
It's so dangerous. It's like when Dr. Phil came on the scene and everyone was like freaking out about how amazing he was on Oprah. And then we're like, he's a doctor of...
Oprah has brought us some real
doozies.
Some real doozies. That's another word. We're going to say doozies
instead of
bamboozled bananas.
I love it. Doozies, bamboozled bananas. I like the ring to all of that.
Yeah.
Doozies. I mean, Dr. Phil has a doctorate in I think it was, what's it called when you have career coaching? That's basically, he's not a clinical psychologist. And he just knew how to speak, have some really funny taglines.
Yeah.
He could summarize a dynamic in a family and recognize it really well. But I always found that interesting because he was not an actual psychologist, clinical psychologist. But anyway, all of that to say, everybody, this is a very nuanced and not very well-known topic. There's this new frontier for therapy, and I think we're just trying to figure it out. But I'd love to hear what listeners think. If there's anything
hear
that
what they think
have
too.
Been struggling. Who are you following that you actually trust? Because I would love to have more of that in my feed.
Yes, I'd love to know that too. That would be really helpful.
Well, thank you again for another lovely conversation and week. You can find us at Laugh Cry Club on all the socials. We post rarely, but when we do post, it's educational and it's about our podcast. I think we like it that way because I want to be contributing to the helpful vibe corner of the internet, not the noise. And I think there's just so much noise.
It's to make content, it should really serve a purpose.
Yeah. And that's where I think it's an interesting thing to watch. Let's just put it that way. But you can reach us on all the socials at Laugh Cry Club. And then we're the same at gmail.com, laughcryclub at gmail.com if you have any questions or have any topics that you want us to cover on future episodes. But we are so glad that you're here. Thank you for being in the club. We'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.